Hi, this is Emily Brady, and I'm going to be talking about my lesson plan for this week. The grade that I have chosen is high school biology, which is usually 9th or 10th graders, and the subject area is reading and also science. For this lesson, the central focus that I want to get out of this lesson is to give students an introduction to ecology and study commonly used diagrams such as food chains and food webs. For my outcomes, I have one for reading, and that's that students will be able to define academic language such as ecology, population, environment, food chain, and a few others with 80% accuracy. For science, which is the content area, my measurable learning outcome is that given several organisms, students will be able to assemble a food chain with 90% accuracy. I have my standards listed here, and then I also have all of the academic language along with their definitions listed here. And my students will be practicing several language skills during this lesson. They will be listening, reading, writing, and speaking. They'll be doing it all. We're going to watch a video. We're going to discuss some information in class. They are reading an article, and they're also going to work on a worksheet, and we'll have to write some vocab on that worksheet. The only technology in this lesson is the use of a video, and I think that's a good activity just because you usually have some visual learners in the class. So I always like to throw a video or a diagram, something visual for those students who learn best that way. I don't have a pre-assessment used in this lesson because it is an introduction, but the formative assessment that I'm using is a whiteboard game review. I recently used this for a field experience lesson, and I had the students split into 2 teams, and a kid from each team goes up to the whiteboard. I ask a question, and they turn around, and whoever writes the correct answer down the fastest would gain a point for their team. So it's a really good review to use for something that you're talking about that has a lot of vocab. It encourages the students to really listen while you're discussing the vocab because most students like to be competitive and win games, so I've just found that this is a fun little game to play. For the summative assessment, I do have a worksheet where students will make their own food chain, and the goal is that they're just correctly able to assemble a food chain and get all of those organisms in the right order and understand why it is set up that way. So the main body of my lesson here is that the students are given a reading, which is called What About Ecology? This reading is by Khan Academy, and you can see it here. It's found on khanacademy.org. It's just a really good introduction to ecology. It talks about a lot of that academic language that I want to use, and the reading strategy that I want them to use while they're reading this article is skimming and scanning. So I really want them to focus on keywords, bolded words, the first sentence, the last sentence of paragraphs, just really trying to get as much as they can out of the article while they are using that skimming and scanning strategy. After this, they'll have an open discussion. We'll practice doing the food chains and the food webs. They'll do that worksheet and play the game. And then lastly, we'll end with an exit slip, which is a post-reading strategy. An exit slip is just a few questions at the end of a lesson just to get a feel of how the students are doing, what they got from the lesson, what maybe they misunderstood. And I do have that attached to the end of my lesson here. So this is just an example of an exit slip that I would use for an ecology lesson. Just a few quick questions at the end to make sure the students are on track for what they should understand. And this is the reference here to that article that they're reading. And then I just always like to end with how this applies to some possible career fields. For example, you use ecology in a lot of things. You could be an environmental consultant, a park ranger, natural resource manager, of course, an ecologist, and there are just several fields that this introduction really pertains to. So it's always good just to mention that for kids to get an idea of what possible careers they would have that relate to this lesson. Thank you.